Today I was like as I was walking this morning, what was coming to me was thinking about like things getting stripped away and how that returns us to wholeness. And I'm someone who I've gone through a fair amount of experiences where people I thought I really needed or identities I had about myself at the time or even like toxic patterning, like for me that would be pornography use, like all of a sudden life situations would happen where either that person would leave my life or something would happen in order, I've talked in other videos about how things happened that kind of made me face my pornography addiction. And what we learn about life is that we are meant to put trust in life, that life is not trying to hurt you and harm you by your experiences, but life is working to help return you to yourself, of returning you to yourself, of your own value and worth. And the ways that we are overly attached to people is us giving our value and worth to relationships, to things, to toxic patterns that help us self-soothe. And we say, I only can make it feel okay with these toxic patterns that help me self-soothe. I can only feel like I am lovable with these relationships I have, and or I can only feel like I have value when I have people that I'm codependent with and I relate to them as I need them, but I only need them because I've put value in our relationship in an overly attached, unhealthy way. And yes, relationships are going to have value in your life, but when you say I'm not okay without this person is when we're starting to relate to life from a place of avoidance and not a place from from our wholeness. And I just want to like hit on this point real quickly before we go deeper into the talk of, even if life gave you situations of like, let's say you start dating someone and they turn out to be an abusive partner, or you've even been in an abusive relationship for 20 years, or you're struggling with health symptoms and then you move into an apartment with a lot of mold that only aggravates your health symptoms. Life isn't trying to harm you in those situations. Those experiences are coming to you because it's life asking you, can you sharpen your discernment, right? We oftentimes find abusive relationships when we're moving too quickly and giving too much trust to people who haven't really earned our trust, or we're settling for toxicity one way or another and saying, I can't change this because I need this person, or I can't change this because I don't have the finances to move again. And from the apartment I moved in that maybe had mold, but the truth of that situation is it's life asking you to dig deep, and it's life saying, okay, maybe I need to call on friends, family, start a GoFundMe that would provide me the resources to be able to move out of this toxic environment that I didn't know I was moving into. And so recognizing when things like that happen, it's one, life asking us to move slower next time around and being more cautious and taking our time rather than rushing into to living in a new building or rushing into a relationship that we then later down the road go, oh, this person's actually really toxic and abusive, and I thought this person was serving me, but really they're causing a lot of chaos and harm in my life. And it's life asking you to move slower and be more discerning in the future and to take your time. And it's not life actually trying to hurt you by giving you an abusive relationship. You chose the abusive relationship. You chose the toxic apartment because you were moving too quickly and you were trusting something without doing your due diligence of, is this actually the right place for me to live in, or right person for me to spend time with? And that doesn't mean that it's our fault. And sometimes life is going to happen in ways where we kind of get forced to make choices quickly. And then it turns out that it just leads to us swapping problems. Right? We think, oh, I need to get out of like living with my maybe living with like our family, and so we rush to move into a new apartment, and then we realize, oh, this apartment actually has toxicity in it that wouldn't be good for me. I've had that experience before. And ended up having to move again. And so recognizing that there's always a lesson in the experiences we're having, and we only think it's a curse when we're not being grateful for the lessons or the growth. Those curses are actually helping us embody or actually helping us evolve towards. And so life is not trying to harm you. Life is trying to help you. And some of that help is going to be hardship, challenges, and the most inconvenient circumstances where you were like, universe, if you just could have given me a little bit of an easier road, I would have got it together enough so this situation would have never happened in the first place. And, sometimes life is going to give you hardship that feels like it's way too much and it's the worst timing as a way of one kind of like kicking you into the growth that life needs you to get to in order for how you're either going to help and serve yourself or eventually, probably eventually, help and serve others, whether it's this lifetime or the next lifetime. And also it's teaching you something in the experience that will help you have less hardships and challenges down the road. Or if you had continued on the path you were on, the hardships and challenges that would have happened would have been way worse than if life gave you the hardship and challenge in this moment that you might be experiencing. And so we have to learn that the universe is benevolent. Sure, there's crazy stuff happening on this planet every day that's harmful, abusive, traumatic, war, all famine, all these things that humans need to come together and start resolving. But it's not that life is evil. It's that life is bringing people through certain levels of growth, and whatever growth you're going through in your life, whatever hardships and challenges, the largest challenges you will go through in your life will be things that pre-life, while we might not remember it, were things we agreed to experience as what it would help evolve our soul to the next level or to the next grade level. And so it's not like we were given a bad deck. We were given the deck we agreed to for the growth we would receive from that. And so bringing it back to loss and things getting stripped down, when things are taken from you, or people betray you, or the identities you held really close to yourself either get taken away, or the ways we self-soothe that are toxic, all of a sudden we're given something that makes us not be able to access that self-soothing pattern anymore. It's not life trying to beat you up or to harm you. It's life trying to get you to embody who you came here to be, which is someone that loves themselves and values themselves. And the ways that we say, I need a relationship and I'm not going to be okay if I don't find one, or if this person leaves my life, is like, sure, you're going to feel heartbroken, but the space that relationship creates by leaving is actually what's going to return you to love and return you to valuing yourself and valuing giving your time and attention to people who actually value you. Because oftentimes when we're relating to people in a codependent way, we're dealing with their negativity, their toxicity, and the ways that they actually really hold us back from being better versions of ourselves. And we are identified with, I need this person, because really this relationship reminds me that I have value, and when I don't have them, then I don't have value. But that's an idea. That's not a reality. And we only think we don't have value, or we put our value in people, identities, careers, whatever it is, because we haven't taken the time to really get to know ourselves. And so life goes. You're only going to really enjoy yourself, this life, if you learn how to love and value yourself. And so it will start taking things away from you. People will start to betray your trust, leave your life. Maybe your career falls apart, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in a void. And you go, how did I get to this place? I now have nothing. And the nothingness isn't something to avoid, it's something to rest in, because the divine feminine, or the one that can love and carry you through anything, is represented by a womb, or a giant black void that holds all of creation. And the only way we get to know who we are is if we're in touch with our heart. And when we go through loss and we have nowhere else to turn our attention but to our own heart, is when we really get to know who we are. We really get to know what we desire for this life, what we want to experience more of. It's when we given the time and the space to reflect on our past experiences, and it's when the aloneness we go through is intense. Aloneness is a hard experience to have, and whether you're in, or if you're dating someone or single, you still are gonna feel alone, right? You're just gonna have, if you're in a relationship, you're just gonna have someone to feel alone with sometimes. and when we have less distractions in our life, it's the universe saying, can you rest in this aloneness? Because when you can rest in it is when you say, I'm only going to get through this feeling of emptiness and spaciousness that feels like death, because it's death for my ego that is overly attached to things in my life that I think give me value, but really are just a distraction from me finding value in myself. And when we're resting in aloneness, it's a break from that pattern. And the only way you're going to get through the death of your ego is if you learn how to love yourself through the aloneness. And when you can do that, you're reminded of your wholeness, which is why aloneness and wholeness are almost, they end with the same syllables, and they're pretty close in how they're spelled or how they sound. And so the wholeness we are running from is oftentimes how we find ourselves in relationships that betray us. It's oftentimes how we find ourselves in addictive patterning, because we say, I'm only going to be okay if I can numb and check out or find distractions from connecting with who I am. And when those things get taken away, it's the universe asking you, are you ready to learn how to love yourself? Because when you can learn how to love yourself and value your time and attention, one, you're going to really know what you want to create in this life. And two, you're going to start to become more discerning of who you give your time and attention to, or how you spend your time. And it's actually the place of when we start creating from our soul, is when we reconnect with our heart by going through loss. And the feminine is all about divine knowing, and it's about intentions, but it actually never gets to creating what it wants to create without the masculine, which is why we need both parts. Because once we start to know who we are, it's the masculine that starts to explore those perspectives, or starts to explore, okay, if I feel like I want to be a healer, if I feel like I want to be an artist, what kind of modalities would be good for me to work with? What kind of resources do I need to better understand the craft that I want to pursue on a deeper level? And when we start to align ourselves more with the masculine, we start to understand the intentions of the feminine, or we start to understand why we want to be a healer, or why we want to be an artist, or why we feel so passionate about a certain subject by exploring it. And then when we explore it, we have the understanding of a greater degree of who we are and why we're passionate about what we're passionate. And so you need both. You're never going to be able to create anything if you're not taking aligned actions towards it. And you're never going to understand what you want to create unless you learn how to love and value yourself and be intentional with your time. And so you need both. And the masculine is the one who's direct, focus, and sets healthy boundaries, so you're not giving too much of your time and attention away in your life to people who aren't amplifying your passion but actually taking away from your passion, or even to hobbies that aren't really going to help you leave the impact you wanted to leave on this planet if you only focus on them, or like scroll on your phone a bunch and you never end up picking up the instrument or picking up the drawing classes that that you would actually lead you to greater nourishment and fulfillment of your purpose or why you came here to this world. And so when we are going through loss, it's actually just helping reconnect with ourselves, and it's teaching us how to love ourselves. And then we can create intentionally, and we start to become aware, okay, those relationships I built off codependency really didn't work out well and kind of left me heartbroken, shattered. So why don't I take things slower? Why don't I be more intentional about who I get to know? And why don't I make sure that before I give them more of my love or more of my attention, that they're actually someone who can meet me on the level I want to be met? And it's loss that helps us find that perspective. And it doesn't mean that we have to go through loss, but the invitation would be, okay, if I haven't gone through loss, but I don't feel like I'm quite at that place yet, can I take more time in my day to love and value myself and value my time? Because even if I'm in a relationship, the only way that relationship is going to be healthy and balanced is if I value my alone time, and I value connecting with myself just as much as I value connecting with my partner. And we get to that place by learning to find value in what we enjoy spending time with, and learning to find value in our time and attention. Right? You don't need a relationship. What you need is to learn how to love and value yourself. And we think a relationship will teach us how to do that, but we're only going to find an aligned relationship when we can do that for ourselves first. And sometimes we might meet a partner and we're both growing in that direction together. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be, I was alone, I learned how to fully love and value myself, and then found my partner. Life likes to mix it up, and there's many different stories of how much we were healed and whole before we found the right person for us. But whether we're single or in a relationship, the question to ask ourselves is, can I love myself a little bit more today? Can I value my time and attention a little bit more today? And can I speak to myself and care for myself as I would my deepest love? Because that is who you are. You are your own soulmate. And when you can't love yourself, you're never going to be able to love another. When you can't find value in your time and attention, you're never going to find the right person to give your time and attention to. And when we can return to our wholeness is when we embody the energy that tells life we're ready to handle more. And when we're going through a lot of life, it's life trying to help you get into a place where you can embody wholeness to then be able to attract the more you're deep down desiring, or the deeper depth of relationships that you're deep down desiring, or the greater passion and purpose you keep on wondering when is going to come to you. But oftentimes we don't know what our passion and purpose is when we're not exploring our passions enough, and we're not being intentional enough with our time and attention. And so if we can start to go, what do I really value and what do I really love to spend my time on in my day, whether that's some type of art form, whether that's spirituality, whether that's writing, whether that's being an amazing cook. And if I can figure that out, I'm going to know what my purpose is, because your greatest passion is your greatest purpose. And it really is that simple. Um, And one thing I kind of just want to wrap up with is wholeness. And I heard this line, someone else was channeling this the other day. It was Alunya Noel, if you're wondering who it was. But she was talking about that wholeness and trust are one to one. And I'm someone that I've had experiences where I've put myself out there, and it doesn't seem like people necessarily are that trusting, or they're very protective, and it can leave me feeling hurt of like, oh, I asked this person to hang out and they don't really know who I am, but they said they don't want to hang out with me at all and said it kind of sharply. And it's like, oh, why wouldn't someone be trusting? Like, why wouldn't someone trust me? And what Alunya said is that Alunya said is that wholeness and trust are one to one. And when people aren't willing to trust you, they're showing you how they still hide from their wholeness, and how they're still relating to life from a codependent way. And it's really how they're hiding from depth. And when we are relating to life from codependency, we are relating to life from I need to settle and compromise, because if I don't do that, I'm going to have to face myself. But it prevents us from really learning who we are, and diving deep and what we want to, and who we and how we want to connect with people. And so when maybe we put ourselves out there, and sometimes people don't always trust us, or can be rather sharp and edgy and overprotective, and we go, why doesn't anyone want to be my friend? Like, why don't people seem to be as trustworthy as I'm trustworthy of them? And it's really the universe redirecting you, going, hey, they haven't really found the depth that you embody, and they wouldn't be able to meet you in the way that you want to be met. And so them saying no is a way of saying they're not ready to handle your depth of presence yet. And it's really a redirection of the universe just saying, why don't you just put yourself out there a little bit more, go to a couple more community events, and we'll direct you to who can actually meet you on the level of love, connection, understanding, whether it's a friendship or a romantic partnership that you deeply desire. And it's not about, oh, if people don't want to hang out with me, then I just hermit and never put myself out there again, right? Because that would essentially be not trusting life the same way that person didn't trust you. But the question is, can I continue to move forward, continue to trust people? And the people that say no are people who wouldn't have been able to meet me how I wanted to be met anyways. And the people who seem to be interested and curious in me, and when I hang out with them, I feel more alive and hopeful, and generally feel excited to see this person, are people that we're meant to lean into deeper relationships with. And life is never out to get you, and the people that say no is really life trying to redirect you to people who are actually going to meet you how you want to be met. And when we can find our wholeness in ourselves is when we can let down our guards a little bit more and start to be a little bit more trustworthy of others, and recognize that if someone really isn't aligned for me to spend time with, I'm going to know when I start hanging out with them, and I don't have to have such sharp barriers with people before I even give them a chance to get to know them. And so when we learn to love ourselves, we remember our wholeness, that actually helps us trust life and trust others a lot more. And it actually, when we're connected to our heart is all knowing, and will receive greater intuitive guidance on who is right to be a friend, who is right to be a romantic partner, and greater intuitive guidance on how to hold boundaries, and when we're not really honoring the boundaries that we're trying to embody. And you only get there by learning to love yourself. So I hope that helps. I hope that brings some clarity to things. And I hope that, helps us all trust that life is helping us. Life is here to serve you and help you have the experiences of growth and learning that are going to make you into the most incredible human. And just because it might be hard and challenging doesn't mean life isn't trying to help you. And so I hope I hope this brings some relief, and I appreciate your time and attention, and I love you all, and bye.